Welcome to Angels Don't Lie. I'm so happy that you're here. I'm Jeannie Street, your host, and today's topic is going to be surrounding grief. This is a very real experience that I'm living in at the moment. And so I thought this is the time to talk about what's been happening in our lives, all of our lives, not just my own, what I have seen in clients as well. And I want to talk to you today, like how to move back into your alignment, especially when things are very big, hard, and emotion based, right? So not last week. Let me go back in time here. My mother-in-law passed away unexpectedly at the end of May. And when I say unexpectedly, I mean just that she wasn't ill. We didn't think anything was happening with her. Um, we knew she was getting a little older. She's in her 80s, but you know, we still fairly healthy and able to get around. And so suddenly, it's for me when I see someone unplug when I'm doing a reading for someone else. I know that the soul has this journey, right? It's so much easier for me to read other people, but leaning into family members and to the experiences of like what's happening, it's much more difficult. So I had this feeling. So she passed on a Sunday. So Friday, we had some stress around what was happening with my mother-in-law. She wasn't answering her phone, and we couldn't get a hold of her. And so luckily she lives, fairly nearby. So we dropped what we were doing and we went down to her apartment to check on her. And she lives in an elderly community where she had an aide and whatnot. I mean, she wasn't in the best of health, but she definitely wasn't ill where you think, okay, this is it. But anyway, so when we were there, I had this feeling like, there's something much bigger going on than what is meeting the eye. So over the weekend, we did our thing, and every day my husband would call his mom, check in, make sure she was okay. And I had been asking him, I think every day for the past 2 weeks, like, had you called your mom? Had you called your mom? As like, I just felt like he needed this reminder, and he didn't need a reminder because he was already doing it. But we were both in this energy. We knew something was kind of going on behind the scenes. And so anyways, we try calling her on Sunday. Well, he tries calling her on Sunday, and there's no answer. And I said to him, we have to go down there. We literally have to go down there. And on the way down there, we're having this conversation. I had asked him, have you ever felt like you're going to be the one to find your mom? Because this feeling I had about around when my grandfather had passed away, was coming up. It was rising up into our conversation. I just kept seeing it. And so, he said, yes, actually, I have. I've had these, kind of visual experiences, and it's really uncomfortable. And I said, I remember having that with my grandfather, knowing that I would be the one to find him, but I didn't know how or when or what that was going to look like. And of course, our mind wants to assign it to something. And he's like, yeah, exactly. Like you kind of have this lifetime movie scenario happen. So I said to him, like, this is why it's just so important for you to just show up and not worry so much about like the event of it, but not worry, but lean more into the love and like how you can show up for your mom and be present for her. And so that was our conversation on the way down there. And when we, got to her place, he couldn't get into her apartment. They wouldn't let us in. They wouldn't let my husband in. They said he had to call the police because they couldn't give the key, this all rigmarole. So finally the police came, then they opened the door, and lo and behold, he found his mother. Lo and behold, he found his mother. How horrible, right? She was still alive. She was still breathing, but she was unresponsive. So then here's the whole conversation that comes right back to us when we're in the car on the way to the hospital. Like, we saw this, we had this conversation, we leaned into this could be a possibility, right? Again, I want to tell you, like, in my energy of how I work, I s- I say I'm a God-based medium, and it's very important, and it's very different than just being a psychic medium, because yes, I am psychic and I can read energy and I can go places beyond what God wants me to know if I pushed it. But I like to say I'm a God-based medium because I stay in the alignment of what God wants us to know. So there's no prediction, there's no outcome. And this is why I have my Angel Healer program. I teach people how to use their unique gifts in alignment with God. It's a much different experience. So when I say vast, it is a vast experience. It's a much different and more vast experience than if we were to just use our psychic abilities. And we all have them, right? We have psychic abilities. It's why my husband and I are having this conversation on the way down, because psychically we knew something was happening. Psychically, I leaned into, oh, have you ever felt like you were going to find your mother? Love wise, I was staying in the realm of what God wanted me to know. He didn't want me to see the outcome. He didn't want me to know exactly what was going to happen or what we were going to find, because that element of free will is such an important thing here. The element of not knowing, of leaning into love, of trusting. So when my grandfather passed away, there was this this song that kept coming forward for me. It was by Garth Brooks. And the wording in the song was all around, I'm glad I didn't know how it all would end, how it all would go. Our lives are better left to chance. I love this song. I love this around my work. I love it around teaching, because our lives are better not knowing. Because when we know outcome, our energy is going to change. Our vibration is going to lower, and it's going to change the way we show up and the things that we choose to do. Because listen, God has given us free will to move through this life. Free will is the gift, right? So not knowing brought us to a place of surrender. Not knowing brought us to a place of my husband and I coming together, of having a deep conversation. Had we known the outcome, we wouldn't have had the deep experiences of love and profound connection with his family during the saying goodbye. We wouldn't have had all the experiences, because we would have just expected, oh, this is how it is and that's it. So our lives are better left to chance. This is an important conversation right now, because as we're moving from pandemic, the staying home, to now stepping out into public and having public experiences and having no masks, there's a lot of stress around this. People aren't always happy about it. Some are really happy and some aren't. There's a division, right? And we want to know, are we going to be okay? Are we going to be okay? So let's talk about energy here, right? Let's talk about when we choose an identity and we lean into that identity, that's where we stay. So for my mother-in-law, she lived in a certain type of an identity. She stayed in that identity, and life became very hard for her, difficult for her in many ways. And as it's funny, the dynamics of a family when they all come together. So my husband's siblings all live out of town, and everybody came. We're a center, we're home. We've always been that way. So the four siblings all come here. And as a witness, I'm watching how they're interacting with each other, and their pain and their trauma and their grief rising. And what happens when we have that experience together? Well, there's this uncomfortableness. We start to feel like defensive. We start to feel like we need to validate our own pain. We need to, like, why can't I grieve? And my experience with mom was this. And so it was just interesting to kind of witness and to be present, and then to give them space to return to love, to offer a sense of safety, like, you're okay to experience this, right? Because there's different levels of grief. um, Shock, right? There's this shock, like, what just happened? What just happened? We were driving home and my husband said, my mom died. That's a shock, right? It's you can't imagine it. If you haven't lived it, you can't imagine it. I haven't lived it. This is my mother-in-law. My mom is still here. I can't imagine. I can have empathy. I can lean in. I can hold space for him. That's all I can do. And sometimes that feels so bad. like it's not enough. But I want you to know it's more than enough. I want you to know that holding space for someone else to heal, to express, to validate their pain, and to just remind them, I got you. And if that means I'll just make you a meal, if that means um, I'm just going to have a conversation with you, if that means I'm going to grab a glass of wine and let you tell your stories, or maybe I'm going to go through the photos, or I'm going to lean in. We don't have to take over. We don't have to take over. We can lean in. So what does that look like for you in your life, and the chaos that you might have been going on, or the life struggles that you have going on? Can you lean in? Right? There's not one thing that's happening at the time, at least not for me. I mean, my daughter, you guys have heard me talk about the divorce, and my daughter-in-law and her brain tumor, and her journey through healing and what that looks like, and my husband and his near-death experience, and now with my mother-in-law passing, and so much life. I said this to my friend Hamilton, I met for coffee this morning. There's so much life happening. It's overwhelming. Like, what will God have me do? And I definitely was stuck in the chaos of the energy. Like, I was struggling. I was like, oh my gosh, not one more thing. Not one more thing. I was throwing my hands up. I was taking my salt bath. I'm like, God, please. And it wasn't until, just a couple days ago when I released and went into a surrender. Because when you're in the mode of it, you have to keep moving and keep moving and keep moving. We're kind of entertaining the family when they were all here, working through the grief. And now I'm like ready to just surrender. And so I leaned into, what does surrender look like? What don't I have to hold right now? What don't I have to take care of right now? And can I walk away with grace, with ease, instead of throwing my arms up, instead of being angry or just done? Can I lean into, I'm just going to take a time out? Can I lean into something that's going to serve me? Like, I'm going to drink this coconut water and I'm going to fill my body with nutrients. Can I return to my yoga, my daily meditation, which I put on hold during all of the energy, the 2 weeks that the family was here, and the chaos of it all? Can I return to myself? And I did. And I didn't do it like, I did it with grace. I did it with ease. I wasn't angry when they were here. I was grieving when they were here. I was holding space for grief. I was holding space for love, love of my mother-in-law, love of her family and her children, love of her, my father-in-law, her ex-husband, just love. And even though we didn't have what I would consider the best of relationships, there was stuff between us. Now there's no stuff. Now there's this opening that we get to have a new level relationship, because there's no more yuck in between us. There's only love. There's only love. Can love fill your void? Can possibility fill your void? Can the remembrance of your loved one, that they've healed, that they aren't that same person that they were in life, that there's this opening for miracle now? Again, millions of people have left our planet in the last 2 years. Millions. If we decide to lean into love, if we decide to change the way we see, the way we act, the way we perceive, right? Well, I think that we're going to notice great healing coming forward. So this leads me to my next thing, which is the evening with spirit, which is something I am passionate about, these group readings. And, here on Angels Don't Lie, I will go live on Facebook and I will take your calls, and we'll do readings right here online, which are so beautiful and I love. But there's other energy when we lean into this evening with spirit or an afternoon with spirit, where we get to show up in person and we get to have an actual experience in the energy. So, you know what it's like to be in the energy with other people now that we're back and we're so excited to maybe go to dinner and see our friends and hug again. This is what I'm talking about. We get to lean in to this love energy in a sacred circle and experience spirit firsthand in this intimate setting. So it's not only about receiving those validating messages and watching the people who, spirits coming through to departed loved ones for them, but it's also the healing energy that happens through the guided meditation, through I hand everybody a feather at the end of the event where we get to have this intimate one word comes to you from spirit. So everybody receives love of some type. And so when you leave, you're different. There's something that shifts, right? There's something that shifts. It's profound. It's coming now at the perfect time. The perfect time for me, I had to say, like leaning into this, I'm so excited because my body has been wanting to get back to work. My soul has been like craving it. Time away has been hard. There's been big things I've had to do, big experiences to go through. And I'm ready now to receive more love because when I channel, I just feel physically better. I really do. So I'm really excited and I hope that you will attend. I hope that you will go to my website geniestreet.com, look for the events, find one that looks good to you and just come, just be in person. If you need to wear your mask, wear your mask. If you feel safer that way, that's great. um, this is no stress zone for me. The angels are just showing this is safe. We're going to be good to do these live events, and we are opening up to more places, so that those are going to continue to grow. And here's another opportunity for you. If you are ready, like if you're a healer, if you have this knowing inside of you, it's time to step up. It's time to step up and start serving. It's time to start serving from the place of love, not helping, right? There's a difference. I always say this in my trainings, like we want to help, right? That's the old story. That's you know, the person that's like, oh, I'm going to help, people pleaser. I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you. Nope. This is about serving, right? It's like what I did for my family. I served them. I took care of them. I didn't help them. I served. There's a difference. What was God asking of me? God was asking me to do this, A, B, and C. And I did those things. And anything else I just put down. And it was like, nope, can't do that. That's how I was showing up. Those are the hot tips on how you can move through whatever struggles that you have. Put down what doesn't belong to you, what God is not asking of you. If it starts to feel stressful, if your body starts to sweat, if you're in your head and you're overthinking, take a look at it. Hold it energetically in your hands and just be like, am I meant to be doing this? Am I meant to be, cooking this meal or taking this drive or whatever it is that you're doing? And if you get that answer, you're going to feel in your body the yes is going to feel good. It's going to feel warm. It's going to feel enlightening. If it's a no, it's going to feel heavy. It's going to be nauseating. It's going to be, might see red. You might have this experience of like, just put it down, put it down for safety's sake. That's as easy as it needs to be. It doesn't have to be difficult. What comes first is your trust, right? Your faith. So leaning into God will lead you. God will provide your answers if you so let him. If you so let him. If you struggle to know what your intuition is saying, if you're struggling to know, how do you know this, Jeannie? That's where I'm going to tell you, you should lean into the angel healer training because you have a lot to offer. The angel healer training will show you how to lean into your purpose, your gifts, open them in a God-based manner. Open your psychic abilities in a God based, loving manner so that you can show up first for yourself. Servitude towards self is the most important thing. And then lean into what it looks like to serve others. It's a holy experience, a holy experience. So, really, some amazing things happening for you, for our planet, for our souls to evolve. Right? An evening with spirit, meant for those who are ready to hear from their loved ones, meant for a healing experience, right? Beautiful. The angel healer training for the soul that's ready to expand, to ready to step into purpose, has been a little confused, or maybe wants to deepen their practice, to go a little further, wants to show up in their work in a new way. Mm, that's the yumminess. So as we are traveling through our personal grief of remembering my mother-in-law, and moving into what does life look like now with her in spirit form rather in physical form, what I can tell you is the peace that my husband has had is that he had that near death experience before she left, that he was able to lean into. God showed me that she was going to be okay by me going there first. His experience has helped him to move through his grief, continue to move through his grief. Grief isn't, we've talked about this many times. There's no time limit on it, right? So it's a personal experience. Our softness, our gentleness with it is all that's needed. Some days we're going to cry. Some days we might feel angry. Some days we won't feel anything. Some days we'll just want to feel them. Call your loved ones in, ask them for the sign, ask them for the love, ask them for what you need. That's what I'm doing. I wish you a most beautiful day. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you next time, because I know and I know, because angels don't lie. God bless you guys.
The truth. When she smiles at you, she'll say